Hello and welcome to another episode of Sense&Rants. This is Mutunari Adiola. Today's episode is a continuation of last episode, which was on failure. Today I'm joined by three friends as we discuss failure, but we're looking at it from a male point of view. But also note that these men are older, so they might have a different interpretation of what failure is or what it means to them. Let's see how this episode goes. I hope you enjoy it. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming to Sense and Rant. I appreciate it. We're gonna go ahead and get started with a little bit of introduction. So please tell us your names, what you do, and anything else you'd like to share with us.
Well, my name is Leye Oluwatula. I presently reside in Dallas, Texas. I lived in Minnesota for about 20 years before I relocated to Dallas, Texas. I'm presently just started my own company, which is a consulting firm, but I still have to do a couple of certification to be a professional consultant. Because they want to see that certification aside from the master's degree. In the time past, I drove for Uber. I did that for about probably 5 years. Oh no, 4 years, just to afford me the opportunity to actually wrap up my PhD, which I do in the next 3 weeks or so. So I should be done with my. I know you're smiling because you helped me a great deal as well in my PhD. So thank you so much, and thank you for having me on this forum as well.
Thank you for coming.
My name is Colin Udo, and I'm a professional writer, or like I say, professional ajala. I kind of do sports is my thing, write sports. Travel is also a lot of what I do, and I'm in Virginia Beach at the moment, but been in Lagos for a while, so I'm a recent transplant, unlike the rest of you.
Okay, so my name is Wale Ashibodu. I currently a major on active duty in the U.S. Army Reserve, and been doing that for the past 11 years, or 10 years actually, 10 years in May. And due to that reason, I have lived all over the country, just about, and deployed 3 times to the Middle East, 2 times to the Middle East and one to Europe actually. And what else am I? So I do public affairs, which is kind of your military way of saying public relations for the military now. So I deal with the media if I need to, and but mostly with senior leaders, some congressmen here and there who want explanation for things, and then what else? And then our soldiers. So
I covered up, no covered up or something like that.
no covered. I'm too old for all that. I'm too old for all that. I'm too old and too slow for all that. So we're not doing any of that.
Okay.
So, but
Okay.
so what else? Yeah. So I'm currently in Maryland, and my family is in Minnesota. So
Okay, cool.
I'm talking to you from Minnesota right now. So yeah.
Yep, you're
that's where I
home.
am.
All right. So, gentlemen, right, let me tell you a little bit about what we're talking about. We're talking about failure. So, on the last episode, I was talking with one of my friends about just what the value of failure is. You know how people say, oh, fail fast, or fail forward, or you're supposed to learn something from your failures. I feel like there's some times that I've failed in my life that I really had. I'm still looking back on those failures and I'm like, bruh, I didn't learn anything from those things. Like I just didn't, just felt like I failed and life was just life. It just messed with me. And but the topic was discussed with a female friend. So people were like, I want to hear from the male perspective, about relationships, about career, just things like that. And also the fact that most Black men or Nigerians or Africans don't necessarily afford or give the space to men to talk about their failures and their shortcomings. So this is your platform to share some of your failure stories. If you learned something, what you learned, and actually what those failures were, if you don't mind sharing, like going into details and just taking it from there.
Well, first of all, I mean, how do you say this? I don't know why you said you didn't learn anything from failure, but I'd say for a fact that if you were looking very closely, consciously or subconsciously at what you were going through. If you're doing the same thing again, if you're repeating that thing to meet a certain end, there's something that you did different for you to get a different outcome, right? They always say that thing where if you're doing the same thing over and over again and you're not getting what you desire, then you need to do something different. So consciously or subconsciously, you may not have picked up what you learned, but you did something different.
I don't know if I did though.
Trust me, whether the thing was time based that you did it, or whether it was procedure based, or whether it was just something. It could be something very little that you didn't even pick up on, or somebody, because when you feel at something, you always consult somebody, you always talk to somebody, you always vent to somebody, you always do something, and in the midst of somebody talking to you about that experience, and then you trying to get over the hump, something changes in that dynamic, or whoever is accepting the work, if it's like a work that you're doing, even something different. It might even be them waking up on the right side of bed, and next thing you know, the outcome is different. Something always turns out different about something. But to go back to your big point, you should always learn something when you don't get a desired outcome in something, and that's how I think about that. And so that allows you to say, okay, is it my fault? Do I need to hustle more? Do I need to be a little smarter? Do I need to be a little, approach the thing differently? I'm doing a self-assessment as to, okay, what did I do or what did I not do to ensure that, okay, the next time I get into this little practice, the outcome is
Better.
number one, more desired, and number two is it reflects the fact that, hey, I've been to this rodeo before. So I've been to this rodeo before, so it shouldn't take me by surprise what's going to happen. So
just to jump in there, Wally, I think some of the issues that we have as Africans is the fact that we don't do this sort of feedback loop. We just keep pressing on and pressing on and pressing on and trying to do the same thing, over and over and over again. And it takes a bit of, eye opening to be able to go back and look at things that have happened in the past and think, okay, this is what I could have done differently, and just sort of work from there. So I think the more we sort of use that feedback loop, the more we can get better at learning. Because trust me, we've all failed at some point at something or somewhere, and this is where I'll disagree with you. We all, whether consciously or subconsciously, we learn from our mistakes. Look, if you're going to farm and you stumble on a piece of root on the way, trust me, you're not going to stumble on that root twice. That's learning. Because now you're aware that that branch or that root is there. So the next time you're passing by that particular place, to at least be careful about that root, because it's there, it's going to hit you're going to stub your toe. So you might think you haven't learned anything, but subconsciously you have learned something, and you would definitely do things a little bit differently than what you did in the past. And that's the failing forward that we all do. Because that, okay, I must take something from what has happened before. Now, the way I do it, I tend to compartmentalize things into two separate columns. When I tell my friends today, they sort of, I know a friend of mine who calls me the two-column person. And the way I do it is, the two columns are, one, the things I can control, the things I cannot control. Now, if something happens, the way I look at it, and it's not just about failure, it's also about just life as a whole. You look at, if you want an expected outcome, then you ask yourself, how do I get from where I am to this outcome? Now, there are two ways you can get there. You can get there via the things you can control and via the things you can't control. So for the things you can control, you do everything you can to control that, and do everything you can to get that outcome. And then the part that you can't for, just like writing an exam, for instance, you want to get an A in your exam, right? So what are the things you can control? The things you can control is you study hard, you do everything you need to do, you write the exam and try to ace it. Now, the part you can't control is who is assessing that paper.
Mm-hmm.
And there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. So now when you get to the point of the things that you can control, then you study as hard as you can, you do every assignment you need to do, you work as hard as possible, and then when you get into the exam, you try to make sure you can at least answer as many questions correctly as you can. Now, after that point, once you turn in your paper, there's absolutely nothing else you can do. Now, you have two choices. You can either go to bed and cry about, oh, I could have answered this question better, I could have done this better, I could have done that better. And it doesn't change the fact that there's nothing you can do about it anymore. At that point, it's out of your hands. So when you look at the things you can control and the things you can't control, then you know how to manage failure going forward.
That's actually very, very informative and educational. I will for sure be using the two columns myself. Leigh, do you have anything to share?
Of course, definitely. I agree with Wally and Collins in regards to the fact that you must have learned something when you said you didn't learn anything in failure, because I know for sure whatever situation is, I'm sure you're not going to go back to that same thing. That means you've learned something there, just like Collins said, and actually, this is the first time I'm actually hearing fail fast. I've never heard that before.
Oh, really?
Oh no, I never heard fail fast before.
That was actually something I grew up with. So this old thing of, if you start early, you fail fast, and then you can learn. So in like your 30s, 40s, you're able to build more. You have your own experience to learn from. Maybe it's a generational thing then.
Well, actually, that depends on what you're failing from, though. I mean, because in your 40s and your 50s, you still fail at certain things. So it's a matter of okay, I failed at say a particular task when I was 20. So at the age of 21, you know how to go by that particular task. But come the age of 50, when you're much older and much wiser, you'll fail at something else again. So this issue of fail fast. I mean, we will continue to fail until we'll probably grow old. I mean, failure is going to be part of. That's the way we learn. That's one of the process of learning. Failure is a learning process. Some people may not fail as much. But we will fail. We will fail at certain things. Now, how we go about it, just like Colin said, is okay. For sure if you're going to a particular path and you trip. The next time you take that path, you know that there is failure at this particular point. So you go a different route. So the issue of failure is going to be continuous. That's the way I see failure. How you go about it, how you pick up yourself and move forward or move beyond that failure is what matters a great deal.
Okay. So the idea of failing fast actually is newer with entrepreneurship. I know for sure. I don't know if you guys are entrepreneurs, but it's actually a huge thing when it comes to, I want to do this business, I want to do that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And then they said to build a business, you have to, some will work out, some will not. And then you just use that knowledge to build a better product or a better business for people, for yourself. I believe that's where that came from. Most recent failures will be my military career, getting my commission, and just there's some things that happened. I shared my personal experience on the previous episode. So if you guys missed the episode, go listen, go catch up and hear my experience. But it just felt like
the one about the swimming.
Yes.
I saw that
challenge. Exactly. Yes.
I saw that.
So it was just like that failure in particular didn't empower me in any way. It took away my self-esteem. It took away time that I didn't have. It changed the narrative of my life because I was also supposed to relocate to Virginia for grad school. I was supposed to, move to New York after grad school. I had all these plans. That one single failure changed my life. I still look back to those days and I'm just like, what did I learn from those? I mean, I've had other failures that, yeah, sure. When it comes to broken relationships, I know, okay, to set my expectations right, to communicate better in relationships, to identify what I'm looking for and don't go for perspective. This person looks like what I'm looking for. If it's not what you're looking for, it's not what you're looking for, right? So I've had both relationships with friendships. It doesn't even have to be romantic in my situation. Friendships that failed, and I learned from those. Some failures that you've learned from, I want to hear, since you guys say you always learn from failure, old people.
Well, before
Well,
we go into that real quick, sorry guys.
Mhm.
You said the failure about the swimming that
Mhm.
I believe what you let it get the best of you. Because I listened to it, the previous discussant, I listened to it, what you guys talked about, and
Mhm.
I believe that you let that failure get the best of you because
Mhm.
you can always go back there and try that same thing again. You chose not to.
I
And,
did, but
and
it
here's
was
the
in
thing.
a different
Yeah,
Yeah, you
way.
chose
yeah,
not
and
to.
here's the thing. Let me just sorry, Leah, let
Go
me know.
ahead.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Now, if you put that into those two columns I talked about, what
Mhm.
you learn from that is that one, that failure was not in your control column. It was in the column of things you cannot control. Why? Because it was something somebody else did that led to
Yeah.
you being in that position, right?
Mhm.
So, but what you probably learn from that, which you might not realize, is that you probably now learn to be a bit more to check all the boxes, before you go into something. So you want to be sure that everything that is supposed to be done, to have been done, has been done. I'm sure
Yeah.
you probably pick that up, and in some ways that also helps you with the team that your team. I don't know how you guys call it in the military, but your team, make sure that you give them as much information as possible that they
Yeah.
need before they go into whatever task or whatever deploy or whatever it is they are doing. So
Mhm.
those learnings are things you took from that, whether consciously or subconsciously.
Now that
so
you put it
so
that way, I guess. But
so,
yeah.
but I mean, as we're talking about failing forward, right?
Mhm.
Um, I think about my military career that I'm doing now, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, in some sort of ways, I'm like, you're part of a team.
Mhm.
And I keep telling people that when you're part of a team, the best that everybody can do is when you arm everybody on the team with all the information that they need, using what Colin just said. And in a career like the military, you can't you can't be playing favorites.
Yeah.
You can't be playing favorites. If this platoon has 20 soldiers, all 20 soldiers must know what is going on for the mission to be
Accomplished.
accomplished in the tip-top way that it ought to be accomplished. But when you're playing favorites and, oh, I'll give this information to A and I won't give the information to B, and then A happens to be the one that's actually not really caring about the mission as much as B does, those kind of things. All those factors that you don't even
Mhm.
know, all those factors that you don't even think about. But you play that game where you are now denying people information. You know, I sit there every day and I'm thinking about, I had a discussion with somebody else. I said, but we're all in this uniform, right? And we all have to succeed for the army to succeed.
Right.
So you tell me what benefit it is for all of us for the army if somebody is sitting there playing favorites. You won't give Wale one information, but you'll give Brenda the information, and then Brenda is, Brenda is all gun ho, all acting like she knows everything. When wait a minute, well, Wale didn't get the information, right? So, but
Mhm.
Brenda did. So, but Wale still has to exist and succeed in this army for the army to be successful.
Right.
So, on my end, I'm experiencing failure, right? Because I'm not armed with all the information that I need, but I still have to keep up with the task. I still have to keep going because I haven't hung up my boots yet. I'm not quitting. This party still keeps going. So when you say fail forward, hey, another one day you don't know, you don't have all what you have, or all what you need, and then the next day, okay, well, okay, I found out that, okay, I didn't have all this today, but tomorrow I'm gonna need all this. I'm gonna go find a way to get all that,
Mhm.
just to do, just to make sure that my mission is done properly. So failing forward is like, if you're part of a if you're in a continuous thing, if you're in a continuous thing, and the journey continues, it doesn't stop. And maybe failure is not even the word to use. Maybe it's just a stumbling or something.
Exactly. I was actually coming to that. Like, I think failure is such a negative connotation to put to things because,
Such a strong word. Yeah.
yeah, it is. Because look at it this way: we are. I don't know. Was it the car or who said we're the sum total of the choices we
Choices
make?
I make.
You know. I'm not quite sure. Is it Oscar? one of these old philosophers anyway. So we are the sum total of the choices we make. So we are also the sum total of the failures or the setbacks that we experience, because there's
Or
nobody who
experience,
will
right?
not experience some setback. So it's almost like you're walking along the road and you get to a crossroads. You decide, okay, there are maybe two different roads to take. You decide to go, okay, I'll take this one on the right. Now, because you took the one on the right, it means you can't take the one on the left.
Mm-hmm.
So you're heading in that direction. You go to the next junction, you see different, you take another one. So by the time you get to say, after you've walked for maybe like, you've taken like 5, 10 different ones, where you get to is out of the choices that you made along that road. So, and you pick up things along that route all the way as you're going. So, those setbacks or stumbles or whatever, I think that, which is why, I mean, that recently we've had this thing of, corporates and people not using the word problems, or instead using challenges.
Opportunities, yeah.
Exactly. So, and it's because it's that whole process of looking at things not in that negative connotation of, oh, okay, this is a bad thing, but this is something that helps you along in your growth, as a person, and also for the people around you.
Mm-hmm.
So if something happens, I mean, like Wale said, you missed a class, or you had a course that you didn't pass. You learn from that, and what that does for you is it shows you, okay, why did you fail that? Why didn't you pass that? So is it that you didn't study enough? Is it that maybe you didn't pay attention? So of course, because the next time you want to get past that, then you
Mm-hmm.
have to pay attention, and then paying attention to that means that by the time you get to that next level, okay, you can't repeat that mistake that you made in that previous one, because you don't want to be back in that
Yeah.
same situation again. Now, that's part of your body of experience that you're carrying along with you to the next stage in your life or in your career or whatever it is. So I think failure is such a broadly negative connotation to the life experiences that shape you and make you who you are. I think it's more like, I think we should talk more about challenges, we should talk more about setbacks, and we should talk more about maybe going off the path in order to come back to the path.
Hmm.
To the path.
That's actually very interesting, right? Because okay, so with younger generations, my 20s, 30s, right? When something goes wrong, it's like, oh, I failed, or oh, this happened, then this gonna happen. But I like how you put it in the sense that they're just setbacks. There are things that you said go the wrong way, and not to go back to the right way. Is that how you said it?
No, yeah, you can step off the path in order to
Yeah,
get back on the
back to
path,
the path.
or you can use that path to make a better path.
Yeah, but sometimes when during that setback, those moments are hard. Sometimes culturally we're not equipped to deal with those setbacks. Sometimes we don't have the avenue of the resources to handle those setbacks. In times past, when you've experienced setbacks yourself, how have you dealt with those?
Again, it's my two-column thing: what you can control and what you can't control. Now, if it's in the past and you look, okay, there's nothing I could have done about that, but
Mm-hmm.
how do I use that to do something better going forward? So now,
Mm-hmm.
going forward, I can control. Backwards, I cannot
You
control,
cannot.
because it's happened, unless we invent a time traveling machine that will take us back. There's nothing you can do about what's happened before. So you look
Right.
at what's happened there and you think, okay, how do I do it better? And I'll give you an example. Um, I mean, all of my life I've been in the media. So I left engineering to practice journalism, and at one point I became editor of a newspaper called Go. Now, the idea behind that, because we started with Kickoff, and Kickoff was a magazine focusing on Nigerian football. The idea was borrowed from the South African edition, which was like a franchise, the Nigerian franchise of the South African publication. So, and we focused mostly on Nigerian stars abroad, and it was successful. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
apart from the issues of distribution, it was successful. So now we now thought, okay, there is another publication in South Africa called Soccer Laduma, which was focused on local football. And our thought at the time was, I mean, if they can be that successful, we can do the same thing here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we didn't learn from others, because there had been previously other newspapers or magazines who had tried to focus on local football, and it didn't work. Now, what we should have done was learn from their mistakes and then try.
What
But
did you right? What did you
yeah,
do wrong?
yeah, exactly. But we tried to push forward. with just doing that, and it didn't work. Like, it was spectacular failure, to be honest. And that's the one time where you can say, yeah, this was a failure, because it was a spectacular failure, because people just weren't interested. So we tried to pivot a little bit in the sense that our original objective was put local players on the cover, put local football on the cover, and no foreign football at all. But because it just wasn't, making any headway, so we now decided, okay, let's pivot a little bit and use our international players to lead the cover, and then we can now use them to drive people, and then get the local football inside. It worked for a little bit, but ultimately, people were more interested in those in the foreign guys. So it took a while. We struggled a little bit, but in the end, we decided to shutter it, and we learned from. I mean, our learning from that experience was gradual, step by step. We saw what didn't work. We tried to sort of tweak it here and there, and saw some success. Eventually, we saw that we couldn't go forward, so we left that and we focused on the magazine itself. So there was plenty of learning from there, and subsequently going forward, a lot of the things I've done since then try to stay away from that side, and just sort of, even if we're pushing the local game, is to push it under the cover of, the more international picture. So those are learnings that those were not personal failure. It wasn't a personal failure per se, but it was a failure that let us and me realize that, okay, look, you can't stay static. You've got to keep keep on your toes, just like fighters stay on your toes, and just try to learn as you go along the way.
Okay, that's interesting. Laia, do you have something to add to that?
Well, on the issue of personal failure, actually, because I do have a couple of experiences when it comes to personal failure. About 10 years ago, I established my own company and all that, and fresh in MBA, fresh out of MBA and all that, so that zeal was there, you know, I'm like, oh, I'm an MBA graduate and all that. So I registered a company, a consulting firm and all that. But I realized that, I started building my clientele, I was talking to friends, I was talking to relatives, I was talking to, people to just come and talk to me. I'll talk to them. I'll do things for them. But I realized that I wasn't doing it properly. But I didn't realize that until later, about 3-4 years. Now, this is what I was doing. For everyone that comes to me, I'll give them advice in regards to business. I'll give them advice. I'll teach them. I'll tutor them on how to get a job, on their resume building. So I actually built resumes. I gave them interview pointers and things like that. But guess what? I was doing it pro bono. So and I did it for about 2-3 years, not charging. Now, I had it at the back of my mind that, I needed the experience. I needed the experience. So at the end of each year, I was filing a loss with IRS, right? So I kept claiming a loss. So IRS at one point in time now got to me and said, hey, you know what? We need to audit you. What's going on?
Yeah.
Why are you claiming a loss every year? So I got together with an attorney. I was paying my attorney $100 an hour. That's a part of our failure as well, because it was costing me more money. It cost me so much money, but I didn't make money off it. I didn't make money off it at all. So I realized that, no, this is total failure. This is not the right path to go when it comes to consulting. In as much as you want to do pro bono job, you still need to charge. So all those jobs I did were pro bonos. I charged a few people, but not to the extent that it got me somewhere. So right after the IRS audit, I realized that, no, this was total failure. I need a different strategy. And that's what we're talking about, as in failing forward. Now, I want to call it falling forward, because now that I've learned my lesson when it comes to management, when it comes to consulting. So now for everyone that actually comes to me, say, hey, can you teach me on how to do this? Can you teach me on how to do that? I'll tell them, hey, these are the charges. Take it or walk away. Because I've learned from my mistake. I've learned from my failure that my first company failed. So now I have a new company. And this new company, of course, it's with my wife this time around, so we cannot fail.
Yeah.
So I've learned that. So I think when you learn from your mistake, just like you said, some are failures, some are outright failure, just like Colin said. somehow outright failure, because that was a failure on my part. You know, but now with this new company now, I mean, I'm guiding it. I'm making sure that I don't do the things of the past that got me bad, that got me to failure.
Okay.
You know, so I think that's my personal experience when it comes to the professional failure, though. When it comes to professional failure, no personal relationship or anything like that. You know, of course, I've had a personal relationship that failed, but we'll get to that one.
Do you want to share?
No, we'll get to that. Let's let Wally share his own failure first. Then we'll go
Yeah.
to
Okay.
failures.
So I mean, in I just remember there was a thing we're doing at work, right? So every October, they call it the Association of the United States Army, where all the big defense people that get all the contracts or that are lobbying for the contracts, they come and they put this convention together basically in October. And so in my office at the time, in my office in Virginia at the time, I was working with two other majors. So the supervisor that was supervising the three of us said, okay, this year you will be in charge. He told one major. Then second year, Wale, you'll be in charge. Third year, Bros, you'll be in charge. So three of us. So the first year, I basically was watching what the guy was doing, right? And watching what the guy was doing. And there was an award that we were supposed to recommend somebody for. And it's funny the way the military works, right? They want you to recommend somebody for an award, but ultimately, we are working, the general that we were working for at the time, the overall boss of the Army Reserve was who we were working for, even though we had all these mid-level supervisors, right? So they will recommend names to him, and he will now recommend somebody out of the names for the award. So he picked somebody out of the list that was given to him. So as the guy was doing 2017 was doing this thing, I noticed something. And so he did his whole thing. They recommended the guy for the award. He didn't win the award. So when it was my turn in 2018 to do this thing, right? I was also doing the same processes. They brought up the names for the award. So they now said, okay, well, they go and write the nomination for the award, right? So I was writing the nomination, and now all of a sudden I noticed the criteria for the nomination. So I say, hey, time out, people. The bottom of this criteria says this person has to be a member of AUSA. So you wrote your own nomination last year. The person did not get the award. So now you are telling me to write the same nomination this year.
Yeah.
And I've been asking the people all over the place. I've been asking all the aides, the camps and everybody. This person you people are recommending for this award, is this person a member of AUSA? Because AUSA, like I've joined AUSA, right? I paid 3-year membership. My membership expired, and I did not go back to it. That's typically what happens with every military officer.
Yeah.
Unless you are doing something. When you're active at work, you don't have time for AUSA.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, somebody sold AUSA to you to pay for the membership. So like you pay for it like you're paying for internet. You never even, as long as the internet is working, you're not really concerned about the intricacies of how it works.
Yeah.
So I paid for the membership. I didn't really go to any AUSA meetings or nothing. So same thing. So I wrote the award, but you people understand that this person is not going to be picked because that criteria is not satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't say anything. The result came back. Boom. They didn't nominate the person. 2019, guy number 3 wants to do the same thing. And so I'm sitting here watching guy is talking about, I read the nomination, it was not written well, it was not this. I said, bros, you are trying to be arrogant. Because
doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
Doing the same thing over and over again. When the criteria clearly says you are not an AUSA member. So you need to go and tell the person that if they want to be strongly nominated for this, consider for this award, even if it's to pay membership.
For that time duration.
Before we turn in this award. even if it's to go and pay the membership, so that when they go and check their system, is this person an AUSC member?
Exactly. There's a reason for having the criteria there.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I said the criteria is that there was 10 criteria on the list, and they wrote all the flowery language on the first eight or seven. But at number 10, he simply said, in simple, very simple language, must be a member of AUSC. I said all those flowery language doesn't mean anything when number 10
this one, yeah.
Satisfied, yeah.
So I laughed. So I made my bone. I picked my bone with the guy, like, but you are here insulting us like we didn't do anything, and we are now teaching you the way, and you want to be arrogant.
Well, isn't there a saying for that? I mean, you do the same thing over and over and expect to change.
The same return.
Yeah, so that's not going to be possible.
I clapped for the guy. I said, okay, Mr. We are sure it was a write-up, no problem. Go and write your own. So he went and wrote it, and lo and behold, they picked somebody that shouldn't even have been considered. If, I mean, his own was even funny, his own humbling was even funny. They picked somebody who shouldn't even have been considered if both of them had membership, because the write-up for his own nomination, the achievements for the person was really super great. But the fact that the person was not a member just nullified that whole thing. And I just smiled when we were in the meeting, and they said, "Oh, General so was not picked." I just smiled. You people keep doing the same thing. Yeah, I'm out of this office. I'm out of this office at the end of the year. Keep doing the same thing, and you think you're going to get a different result. Keep doing it. Because I jumped through. I made phone calls. I said, "Is this person an AUS member? Whoever their aide is, need to go and tell them that they need to join."
Yeah.
I mean, it's not my award. It's them that they're trying to nominate for award. It's not my own. I'm just trying to help you people out. I'm part of the team, right? So that was an experience that was associated with work. For personal experience, I don't know.
Don't be proud. Don't be proud. Don't be proud.
No, it's not about pride. It's not about pride. It's not about pride. It's not about pride. I say something. I say something. I analyze my career as I'm going.
Yeah.
That someday, very soon, I'm going to be a lieutenant colonel, right? But sometimes, even as you're achieving these things, you are not feeling the strongest. You're not feeling the strongest as you feel when you are doing these things, because you feel like you don't have all the benefit and the wealth of information you should have. And you're kind of doubting yourself. You're kind of doubting yourself as you go. Like, hey, Turaya knows, right? That, okay, you go from lieutenant to first lieutenant, from first lieutenant to captain, from captain to major, from major to lieutenant colonel, and so on and so on. Some of those things, all you have to do is check the block.
Yeah.
It doesn't really tell of your strength. As long as you have checked the block that you are required to check, they'll have space for you. But when you now get to the point where it's not just enough to check the block, the positions are limited and there is now heavy competition.
Yeah.
That's when you now start thinking, if I had acquired this as I was coming up, if I had acquired that as I was coming up, you are now thinking to yourself, that will make me more competitive. That will make me a more stronger, more viable candidate. And so you are stumbling and you're not addressing some things. Or you could be stumbling and addressing those things. If you're addressing those things, then you are stronger. So I've analyzed my own life as I'm going along. I'm a major in the United States Army Reserve, and one day I'm going to be a lieutenant colonel. So what's going to happen when it's time for me to be a colonel? I have to make sure I fix some things. Excuse me. I have to make sure I fix some things as I'm getting to that, to that time of my life, that when they look at my body of work, when they look at my body of work, I'm not found wanting, because they're going to have like 1,000 lieutenant colonels going for 200 colonel positions. And now you have to be viable and ready.
Exceptional.
You have to be exceptional. So it ain't a matter of, okay, because when they are promoting you to lieutenant colonel, there might be enough positions for lieutenant colonels. But when you get to colonel, it's like, okay, because for one colonel in the army, there might be 5 lieutenant colonels.
Yeah.
So now what's going to happen to the other 4 that were promoted with you? When you all get to that point, they have to drop them now. So sometimes stumbles, you have to learn from them. There's almost no way. You have to learn from them.
Definitely.
Because
I agree.
if you don't pay for not learning, if you don't pay for not learning at that point in time when you're going forward, you will pay for it at some point.
After. Oh, okay.
You pay for it at some point.
And here's something maybe I should also point out is, I mean, like right now we're all living in a Western society where we can have these reflections, you know, there are things that, you know, more like happen in a straight line graph. Now, but our background is a totally patriarchal and misogynic society where you know that as a member of this gender, your failures or your setbacks are more or less overlooked unless you belong to the other gender, which is the female gender. So you know that I don't know what to call it, like an arrogance of that gender arrogance of, okay, look, of sweeping things under the carpet just because you know you have the advantage of patriarchy behind you is
No, I think you said it all. It's the misogynistic tendency within us. You know, that's just it.
exactly.
That's in,
So
hey, I'm a man, so I mean, deal with it. You know, what you gonna do about it? You know.
exactly. We just stumble on from one setback or one failure, one mistake to the other without addressing the causes of that. So, and then it tends to become a ripple effect going down the line. So I think what I mean, because this podcast, video is not just directed at those of us in diaspora,
Yeah.
but those back home. So what we need to understand, especially those who are still there, is that you know, we've got to unlearn a lot of, you know, the misogynistic bad habits that, you know, that come ingrained. It's almost like it's a part of our default setting.
It
So
is.
yeah, so we need to unlearn a lot of those attitudes and then start to sort of, you know, reset ourselves from that default to a new setting so that first of all, you understand that, okay, look, these things are what they are. Call them what they are. Whether it's a setback, whether it's a failure, whether it's a lack of accomplishment, call it what it is, and then find a way to address it so that you both learn from it, and then you become, you know, it helps. It becomes part of your better experiences going forward, so that you become, it shapes you in a much better way than you would have been if you are simply just swept on the carpet and moved on.
Okay. Leia, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think the issue of unlearning and learning new stuff. I mean, based on the fact that we're in the Western world, and I think the mentality, just like Colin said, that we bring from Africa to the Western world, there's this tendency that it tends to live with us. For instance, now let me give you an illustration. We all know the culture here. I mean, we've all been here for a while, so we know certain aspects of the culture here in the Western world. Now, back in Nigeria, because I'm from Nigeria, I'm first generation African here in the United States. The male, no, hey, I don't know about you guys. You know, but my point is, back home, right? Back in Nigeria, the male takes care of everything in the house. Let's just put it that way. It takes care of the house, the bill. It takes care of everything, right? It takes care of the kids' school fees. It takes care of the cars. It takes care of everything. So now coming over to the Western world, now if we've learned anything at all, we've all learned that here it's different. But yet we put it upon ourselves that, hey, you know what? I'm the male. You know, I need to take care of all the bills in the house. You know, that is personally, I mean, if you have the capability to do it, sure, why not? But personally, I think we should take a part of this culture and tell our spouse, and I'm saying our wife or whatsoever, hey, you know what? Let's share this bill. You know, I've sat with some baby boomers, you know, they are retired and all that. And the man said, never let a woman pay your mortgage for you. So I sat down and I reflected on it. I'm like, Okay, why? So I know where he was coming from because, I mean, of course, I can tell you he was well grown before he got to United States. So that mentality that, oh, if a lady pays your bill, you're going to hear
She
it.
becomes the man or something.
Exactly. Or maybe you're less of a man.
Mm.
You know, that makes you less of a man. But now look at it this way. Now I'm going towards failure. Now, what if something happens? Because I've seen relationship where one of my boys, he was taking care of all the bills in the house. He told his wife, don't take care of anything, just take care of the kids. Now, business went sour, business went real bad, that he now called his wife and said, hey, babe, you need to help me with this bill, help me with that bill. And point blank, the lady said, no, are you not the man in the house? You need to take care of this. Believe it or not, it went through a bad time that the marriage failed because of that. Because the guy couldn't do it anymore. So,
Yeah.
but where am I coming from? I mean, Collins talked about the misogynistic our tendency within us. We'll be like, no, I have to take care of all this bill. I have to do this. I have to do that. But coming to United States, I can tell you, I can bet you, if you go to an average African American or Caucasian family house, they split the bill. But the
Maybe
fact
not
that we
split 50-50,
not
but there's
split
some sort of
50-50,
arrangement
yes,
that works for them.
that's what I mean.
Okay.
No, I'm not talking 50-50. I'm talking at least 70-30 or even 60-40.
Okay.
Because they know the value. But we be like, no, I need to pay my rent. I don't, you know. So I think at one point in time, you will not be able to do it. If, for instance, you are not able to do it and you fail to talk to your wife about it, because some people will be like, I don't want to make my wife know, you know, so my wife shouldn't know that I'm not able to pay this bill. Let me go talk to someone outside
And borrow.
and borrow, you know, which I feel, I mean, of course, it's not total failure, but the fact that you're not able to pay your bills is not failure. Don't get me wrong. You know, it's just a setback, you know, just like Colin said, let's talk about setback as well. So I think we need to begin to address that as well, you know, as African men in the Western world.
Okay. Okay.
No, so I was going to piggyback on what Leah was saying about
Yeah,
the
go ahead,
whole
please.
relationship thing. Because I'm very active in my alumni, right? In my alumni associations from the two secondary schools I went to. I'm very active in the alumni. And I talk to a lot of the females, you know, females that you went to school with.
Yeah.
Some of them had more brain than you in class, right?
Oh, definitely.
And they grew up, and all of a sudden they're married to somebody, and all of a sudden they become a total complete shell of themselves because they get into a marriage situation, and the man just completely acts like he's God. Like, oh, you can't do anything for yourself. You have to stay in the house and watch the kids and nothing else. And so when the man is now struggling, they're all just pretty much, you know, paddling up whatever creek because you've relegated one person to bystander, and then you now think you can handle, the whole thing yourself. And that's a Nigerian, and that's generally the is the common practice in Nigeria, and it's very strange to me because
it is.
You know, because I'm looking at, because I mean, you're thinking, well, wait, you were in school with this person, and this person was clearing A's just like you.
Yeah.
So you know how she
clearing
reasons.
A's and B's just like you.
Yeah, exactly.
So you know how she reasons, you know that she's intelligent, you know.
Yeah.
And it's very funny. And then all of a sudden you meet them 20 years later and they're like, I can't, you know, man, my husband is this and my husband that. I can't go anywhere without my husband. And I was just like, so did you go to this? You know, if you were in that situation, you know, because sometimes I actually looked at it. I actually questioned myself. I said, so if I lived in Nigeria in these times, in this same climate, would I be behaving like this?
Like that, yeah. Yeah.
Would I be acting this way, or does my mind tell me? Because I grew up in a household where my father actually cooked, you know, every once in a while. Like he would just, like on Sunday before my mom passed, right? My dad would get in the kitchen on a Sunday. My mom would sit in the parlor watching TV. Because
and you rarely see that in Nigeria. You rarely see that in Nigeria.
Yeah, so Sunday was the day that my dad was home most of the time. So Sunday, you were almost guaranteed that he was going to be home. And my mom never stepped in the kitchen. Breakfast, we made breakfast and went to church. By the time we came back from church, I mean, all kind of food spread. My dad would make soup, would make jollof rice, but we even have guests. And my dad was the one cooking all the food. And my dad would just simply tell you, look, if my food does not taste good, that's how you're going to eat it. I don't care. But I'm the one cooking today. This is my day. So after my mom passed, right, he became more and more like, okay, as we were growing up more, he would teach us things to do by ourselves because he was not always home all the time. But when he was home, he never had any issue, getting in the kitchen and doing those things. So that was in Nigeria where I was living, right? So I'm now thinking, what kind of households did all these other people come from? Where, yes, a man is supposed to be a man. A man should be. The head of the whole head of the family thing.
Definitely.
To me, always makes me laugh. I said, it's not that a man cannot be the head of the family, but what does that make the wife? The doormat of the family?
They said the neck. So if the neck doesn't move, the head doesn't move.
Leave neck. So, I would just always ask, if a man is the head of the family, what does that make the wife? The doormat or something? Or the voiceless one? Or I didn't understand it. So I always wonder what the mindset is, or why is the mindset so
different?
So, what's the word we're using? Misogynistic, right?
Misogynist.
Yeah. Why is it so one-sided? Why are we so patriarchal to the point that we can't even stop and think that even in the way Nigeria is now, you need two people making money.
Oh yeah.
Making money. Forget the Western world. In the way Nigeria is now, you need two adults.
You need two sources of income. I totally agree.
Two sources of income. The way nobody has money in Nigeria, you need two sources of income. So you can now sit there and you're lording over your wife, and you're telling your wife, a whole human being who got like a 2-1 or 1-1, and you're now sitting there trying to act like you are the Lord and Savior of the house and everything. And it's like, dude, you're falling short.
It's actually a thing for some guys, even like my generation, talking about, I should bring them the money. The lady should have dinner ready for them when they come home. I don't know who these ladies are. I don't know where they're getting them from, but it's still actually a thing, even amongst people my age in the 30s, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm the head of the house, or I'm the man in the house. They should do other things, things like work. Maybe the lady can have like a store in front of the house, or plain out just be a baby making machine. I saw somebody that said, oh, he wanted 7 kids. So he's into oil and gas, so he has money, BMW, Lekki phase 1, all of that jazz. And so yeah, he's looking for someone to come along on this ride. But
a baby making machine, yeah.
But here's the way I see it. I think, for me, there are two ways I see people like that, men like that. And the first is they were either raised, very traditionally, or it's an and an or thing, that they have something of an inferiority complex.
That's your first time. Because I'll drink to that.
I bet you will.
Because if you're confident in your own skin, it doesn't really matter. You go into these things as an equal partnership, and that means you share your successes, you share your failures, and you do everything as a team. So, and again, it comes down to the whole issue of we as patriarchal Africans maybe feeling a little feeling that, if you share your failures and your setbacks, it makes you a little less of a man, or a little less
of a man,
than you would be. But I think, again, like I said, we have to unlearn that and sort of think of it in the sense that your whatever setbacks or failures you have is an outcome that helps you get to a better outcome going forward. Because in some ways it's like asking yourself a question. It's okay, look, instead of looking at your goals as, okay, I didn't get to this goal, so that means I failed. Let me go and try another goal. It's looking at it as, okay, so I didn't get the outcome I wanted from this goal, but it helps me get the answer to getting, either a different goal or a similar goal, but it just, at least it helps you build, you know, going forward. And I think that, again, it comes back to what I keep saying, and I'm sorry I keep doing this, but I keep going back to the things you can control and the things you can't
You
control,
cannot control.
because we have to look at these failures, these setbacks, this whatever they are, as, things that help us grow and become better people. So if you can control something, you do your darndest, to control it in order to get the best possible outcome for yourself. And then once you've done that and you get to the point where you can't control it, then you leave it for whoever is going to be next, and you look at the next thing that you can control. So the more you think about life in that way, because look, failure can lead to worry, worry can lead to stress, stress can lead to cardiac arrest.
And
Yes.
cardiac arrest can lead to death.
To the ultimate departure, to the ultimate departure line. So, but once you understand that, you don't let stress, I try as much, look, as much as possible. I mean, I don't get on. I'm not saying I don't get stressed, or I don't worry about things. You do worry about things because you're only human. You're going to have to worry whether you can control it or not. But when you understand that, whatever you do, whether you worry or you don't worry, you can't control something, then, I mean, what's the point of worrying? You can think about ways that maybe you can work towards making that thing better, or maybe at least helping whoever can control it. But, your worrying is not going to change what you can't control. No matter how long, how hard you worry, how many sleepless nights you have, it's not going to change that thing. So if, for instance, Wale is in charge of maybe signing off on something, and my job is to make sure that Wale signs off on it, then I make sure I check all the boxes so that it makes Wale's job easier for him to sign off on it. Now, once I've checked all those boxes and I send them to him, it's at his discretion now whether he signs it or not. It doesn't matter what I do. I mean, I've done all I can do to make sure he can do his own job. Now, if I don't do
His
my
own part.
exactly, if I don't do my job properly, and then I take it to him, of course, that means there's a failure in there somewhere, and that means that he might not be able to do his own job properly, and then it cascades all the way down to even the people that would have done their own jobs before me. So it behoves on us to say, okay, look, how do you respond to all this? So if I do something and I feel like, okay, this is what I could have done, this other what I can do this, because I do this, Wale can do this, Alaya can do this, Mochona can do this, and I didn't do enough for them to do those things properly, then I've created a cascade of failure from my side to Wale, to Leia, to Mochona. So what I need to now do going forward next time is say, okay, how can I make this better in terms of the things that I can control? How do I check those boxes in my own way, work as hard as I can, or do everything I know I need to do to make sure that when I pass it up to the next person, that person can now, because it is only when you do everything to make sure they can do what you need that you can be sure that, okay, what they do depends on what you do. It's a function, because the function of what you do. If you do it right, then you're almost 90% guaranteed that, okay, they would now do the next step that also benefits you. But if you don't do it right and you pass it on to them, then you leave them plenty of leeway to do things the way that you wouldn't like them to do it. So again, what you can control or what you can't control, that's how you respond to failure.
Yes, sir. Like it.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
What you say?
No, I was saying thank you to Collins for breaking that down. I really
Oh
appreciate that.
yeah,
You
for
know, I
sure.
really
I
do.
feel like he's a
Yeah.
professor. I should have brought my pen and paper. Grab some, grab some. Yeah. But anything else you guys want to talk about? The floor is free now. Let's take it away. I'll edit. Don't worry, I'll edit it out very well.
I mean, I think we were talking about the relationship angle. We're talking about the relationship angle before, and I think that for our people all over, whether you're Nigerian in Nigeria or you're a Nigerian that refused to take Nigeria out of you, and now you're doing you know, you think you're in America, but somehow
Let me cut you real quick. I know a family here in Minneapolis that the husband does regular 9 to 5, the wife does evening shift, so comes back around like 11:30 p.m., 12 a.m. This man waits for his wife to come and cook.
to come and cook. Oh, yeah.
Wow, you're kidding.
I dealt with that. I dealt with that years ago, and honestly, I mean, it's their story, and I don't think I can share it. But to be quite honest, I mean, it ended up not working because what the woman was putting up with, ultimately, she stopped putting up with it, and it was very funny because it's like, because I would say, why would you be putting up with something like this? Like, why would you be putting up with something like this? Because I didn't quite get it, but ultimately they had to as adults in their situation had to come to a certain point.
Yeah.
And
that's a failure of unlearning bad habits.
Right.
Bad patriarchal habits.
And so people and decisions were made, and everybody had to go their separate ways. So yeah, I understand what you're saying completely, because that story was very funny to me. Like, how did you and I leave the house, and you're waiting for me till 11 o'clock for me to come back to cook for you?
And he gets off work earlier, like literally hours earlier than she does. And like there's soup in the fridge. Like, make a bath, bro.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. Especially here, there are so many different ways you can get around that. I mean, grab the thing, pop in the microwave, and you're done. Or grab something on your way back home. I mean, like there's just so many.
You have to come and put the food along with the bowl of water for him to wash his hands.
And it's very funny. I went to boarding house, right? And I used to remember in boarding house that we had boiling rings.
Yeah.
And we were able to make food because tiny hall food was trash. So when you get back to your dorm, everybody breaks out geisha, everybody breaks out gari,
and sardine and all that.
And you cook.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so hold up.
No, why are you dating us now? Montreal didn't experience all of this.
I went to Mayflower, okay? I went to Boarding School.
Oh my gosh.
Yo, okay.
Because we used to actually take the beans from the ref, grind the beans, add pepper, add a bit of salt, add a bit of geisha.
And that's go.
Yeah, you're old. You're old.
Stop it. But but the thing I wanted to really say is that, for all of us with this mentality that we now let it go, your spouse is your partner.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want your life to be easy, or you want it to be really ridiculously hard. And if you married a woman and she's supposed to be a good thing for you, then make use of her.
Yeah.
Make it a good thing. If it's a good thing, make it a good thing. If she's supposed to be of help to you, then let her help you.
Yeah.
If she's supposed to add to your life, then let her add to your life.
I mean, I think we said this at the very beginning of this conversation. Sorry, Wally. I think it boils down to the cultural thing. The culture we grew up with. Saying that because I know some people, even very close to me, where going back to the issue of food and all that, he wants fresh bowl of soup every day. So I'm like, who does that? Fresh bowl of soup, fresh pot of soup every day.
Who's cooking the soup?
Look at your damn face.
So I think that's where, I remember Robert Nesta Marley, who we all know as Bob Marley. He said, wherever you find yourself, appreciate their culture, but never forget yours. So there are certain things, there are certain aspects of our culture that we really need to get rid of.
Yeah.
Because in my MBA class, actually in my PhD class, there's a lady, she's Caucasian, white and all that. And she brings meal in the evening time, adult learning and that kind of stuff. Everybody's gone to work all day. So we come to class in the evening. So in the evening time, she brings a hot dish every day, every class we get. So we were like, girl, man, you can cook. She was like, cook? I don't cook. My husband does all this cooking. So and she'll do pastry. The husband will do pastries, hot dish and all that. And she'll bring it to class. So we're like, wow, your husband cook is he a chef? And she was like, no, he's not a chef. He just cooks for us.
Wow.
So when we begin to change our mentality, you see, we begin to actually have some sort of inner peace in the house, where you don't have to stress the lady or the
Right.
wife, because we all know this saying that if the temperature, if the lady's temperature is really hot, the temperature in the house is going to be hot, and we know that because it's the fact. It's
Mhm.
just the fact. It might be funny, but it's the fact. So if the lady is excited, if the lady is happy, there is joy in the house. There is joy in her heart. Everybody in the house will be joyful.
Hmm.
So we need to stop treating our ladies like, and maybe I'm talking like this because I can cook, so I don't stress my wife at all when it comes to the. You know that.
Do you have a
I can
brother?
cook very well. So you understand where I'm getting to. So
Yeah.
once we begin to change that mentality as well, the mentality of fresh soup every day. Who does that nowadays? But if you check our culture has been affording us that opportunity for so long. That's why we feel when we get to the Western world, and that is why a typical African man wants to marry a typical African woman.
African woman, yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, some of them
Because
actually.
what-
Let me shock you guys. So some people want to marry the educated African woman, the feminist African woman, just so
Yeah.
they can cob them.
Yeah.
You, it's a
Oh,
yeah.
but
So
it's
like so
that's
they
the
can
that
dominate them. It's like, oh,
but
you were this, you were
that's
that. I like it outside, but in my house,
In the
I
house.
come home.
No,
Now
Yeah.
you
but
no,
have to.
but
that's the recipe
you're
for
gonna end up hurting
disaster.
yourself.
Oh,
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
it's a recipe for disaster because you can't expect someone to be one thing all their lives, and then just because they got married, then they now have to do a complete 180. It's not
Yeah,
going to work.
people have that expectation though. There was a trend on Twitter. I don't know if trend is the right word that I use, but yeah, I'm on Twitter talking about feminism, and how Nigerian women are hopping on the wagon of feminism these days. And this guy was like, yeah, I love feminists, but I'll marry a feminist, but as soon his explanation was, as soon as he marries her, like his ring goes on a finger,
Uh-huh.
that is the end of it. I'm like,
She stops being a feminist.
exactly, like watching,
She needs to answer to me.
the
No,
I do or
but
the
you
wearing
see,
of the dress. Where?
yeah, here's the thing. A lot of these conversations that I see on Twitter and especially comes from single young men and women who have no idea, you know, what it means to get into a partnership. So sometimes when I read some of these statements, I just laugh and unlook them because you can see that it is it comes from the brains and minds of people who are still essentially immature. Because look, some of the when you read some of this, whether it's from the males or from the females and the things they say, you cannot relate those things to real life.
Nope.
But
Because
you,
real life, adulting is a totally different thing entirely. Absolutely.
so
There's
are you
no
saying these kids? Are you using kids loosely here for 30-year-olds as well? Because you're
yeah, of
19,
course. Of course. Of course.
That's because
Because
you're 30.
look,
Don't that's because
yeah,
you're
it is.
30 don't mean you're grown.
You can exactly you can have
I'm
50-year-old man who is
I'm
still
grown,
oh
sir.
Yeah.
we'll take that under advisement. Yeah.
I'm an old grown woman, but go on.
Yeah, because I see a lot of these things. We're having a conversation, and this was a while ago, and maybe it's a bit off topic, but it speaks to sort of what we're talking about. Um, and so we're having this sort of when at the office in the studio, trying to have a conversation about life as in marriage, and we had this young man, single. He was in his mid 30s, and he goes, "Oh, that when he gets married, he's going to be doing like it's a license to have sex. He's gonna be doing it everywhere, here, there, this, that, that, da, da, da. And there's this guy. He's a former footballer. I'm not gonna say his name, but like he came up with a gem that I've never forgotten. And I hope this is not a family friendly show because I'm going to have to drop a.
It's okay, don't worry about it.
So and he said he said it in pidgin. Said, "Come, make I draw your ear. Eh? When you marry, at that time you gonna say forth and I walk." So like like that just shut down the conversation. So everybody
I've never heard that before.
like he said it in a very, and this guy had been married for what, 25 years at the time? Yeah, about 25 years. So when he said it, like everybody just stopped. And each time I've repeated that to people, everybody just relates to it instantly. Because you think it's gonna be all like romantic honeymoons. It's not, you know.
It takes a
So
lot of work.
we're thinking, okay, look,
Yeah.
you know what, I ain't got time for this thing.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So that's why I said when I listen to all these people going up on Twitter and saying, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, you will understand when you get in there. So,
But then again,
and if you don't, you're
are
going to
we
run
talking
into
about
trouble.
people or to people that actually want a partnership, or are we talking to people or about people that have their envisage their marriage to be traditional, you know, man head, woman bottom kind of thing?
No, I mean, to answer your question, look, if you grow up in Nigeria, whatever, I mean, you should take what you think your idea of marriage is, and just like get a hammer and just smash it first of all, and then
But not completely though.
Not
Not
completely.
completely.
Yeah.
To finish the sentence,
Yeah.
when you smash it, now
Yes.
you pick up the things that you need to pick up
Okay, got you.
and strip the rest of the stuff away.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, first of all, I mean, you think about the typical Nigerian man, right? And they've already figured out what their life is going to be
Mhm.
when they get married.
Yeah.
Just like the story that Colin said, they've already figured out what they're going to do. So when you are thinking about that for a second, you say, wait a minute, you as an adult, you're going to bring another adult into your situation, and you're already deciding what's going to happen to that adult before you know
No,
who that
don't.
adult is.
Yeah.
So how is that jiving, or how is that working? So, because I always tell people, I'm not a marriage counselor, but how your marriage is going to go is really just dependent on the kind of questions. 110 questions, 1,000 questions. I mean, how many stones you choose to leave unturned before you get married with the human being? Because women will say what they want, men will say what they want. And most of the time, at no point in time have they asked the reality of have they visited the reality in their mind that I'm saying what I want. I have not gelled what I want with what this guy wants.
Person wants, yeah.
Or me,
True.
I have not gelled what I want with what this woman is going to want.
Yeah.
I do. So the men will always win, because in the traditional Nigerian parlance, right, is what the man says that goes. So they just walk in like a bulldozer. Because the friend that I talk to every day, about her life is, she basically, once she had her first child, the man just basically shut her down and said, I don't want my children in daycare, blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking to myself, so I asked the question, I said, did you guys discuss this thing? Because you ask questions. Did you guys discuss this thing, how it was going to be? You got a degree in microbiology, which I think you would need to you got a degree in microbiology. So you would need a master's and a PhD, and possibly a master's in public health, something that will make you have attempts to have a fulfilling career in that thing you studied.
Yeah.
He got a degree, I think, in mathematics or something. So I asked, I said, did you like experience let my people go to university, or what was your GPA coming out of university? Oh, she had a 3 point something. So all that brain in your head was now,
Is daycare in the house?
I always tease her these days because we still talk. I said, so all that brain in your head was now relegated to, you have to make eba at 5 o'clock.
Taking care of the kids in the house.
I'm making soup. So that's what all your brain was relegated to, because anybody off the street can make eba. The eba might be rock hard, or it might be potty like mud, but it's still eba, because it's hot water and garri put together. Just all depends on how much the balance of the mix that you mixed it.
Yeah.
So I say that to say everybody needs to really, because we all say adulting is a scam these days, right? Because of how we're so unprepared to be adults, And then when the reality hit us in the face, then you started unlearning the thing, and you started unpacking the thing one by one. But those are the reasonable people that are learning to unpack. So people are just going head on at it because they don't care. This is what their father told them how marriage is supposed to be, and that's why they're going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
I heard something. So they said, people said, our mothers, well, the mothers these days they're raising wives and mothers, but the mothers are raising sons. Does that make sense?
Yeah, a little bit.
So like the
So basically, what
mothers are raising their
the mothers are raising their daughters to be wives. Basically,
Yep.
that's what you're saying.
Yep.
And
But
raising
they're raising
their
their sons
to
to
be
still be
sons,
sons
to be a man. Yeah,
Mhm.
to be a man. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I think that
sorry, go ahead, Colin, because
Go
I
ahead.
kind of disagree with that, though. I mean, in the modern world, though, I mean, in the 21st century, maybe back then, I mean, because I know back then, women and mothers, their desire over their daughter, their first desire over their daughter is, oh, you need to get married. And that
It
was
still
back then.
is.
I'm not sure
Yeah,
about that, though.
It
I'm
still
not really
is.
sure
it
about
still
that.
is for a lot of
Is
It
women.
it
It
still is
still
for a lot of
is.
women.
Oh,
Trust me,
wow.
I'm a woman. I
Yeah.
know.
So yeah, I know. So I agree with you. And I think it's a mentality that needs to change, because again, it comes out of the patriarchal society that makes it seem as if a woman needs the validation of marriage in order to be complete,
Yeah.
which is not true. You don't need a man to validate you. You don't need a marriage to validate you. What all you need to validate is your own self-validation. That's all anybody needs,
Right.
whether you're a man or a woman. So yes, it's good to have that institution, especially because of we're Africans. It gives you respect, and it gives you I mean, all sorts of maybe little, not perks, but just that how do I put it?
Societal
Well,
upgrade.
respect, yeah, but it should not define who you are. So we see young women trying to, oh, I must get married before I'm 25, I must get married before I'm 27, I must get married before I'm 30, I must get married before I'm so and so. What you don't see young men saying, oh, I must get married before I'm this, I must get married before
Oh,
I'm that,
hell no, no way.
So the question then is, why should it be a thing for young women and not a thing for young men? And then it goes back to our patriarchal upbringing, where we all believe that a woman needs a man in order to be complete. No, you know, a woman is as complete as she wants herself to be. Now, which is not saying that I mean, when I say a woman, is as complete as she wants herself to be, I mean that if she feels that getting married is what makes her complete, that's a choice, that's a prerogative, that makes her complete. If she feels that, okay, not getting married makes her complete, that's a choice, it's a prerogative, that makes her complete. So, and I think that's what we need to, that's what mothers and women need to understand, that you don't need to beat this into little girls' heads that, oh, for you to be where you are, you need to have a man. So you're not being, you can raise your daughter to know how to take care of the house, but taking care of the house means taking care of her house. So whether she's married or not, she should know how to take care of her household. Now, but you shouldn't be raising her to learn how to take care of a man's household.
Yeah.
And to be submissive.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's good to be submissive, but not
exactly.
like
So just like Wale said,
not like don't be a
you
slave or
take what
anything.
you learn, you break it, then
Yeah.
you pick up the pieces.
Pick up the good part of it. Yeah.
So when you get into and when you get into a marriage, it's the same thing as when you get into a job. We have division of labor. So okay, this person is the boss, this person does that, that person does that. The same thing when you get into a marriage. Okay, as a man, this is what the things that you might do. As a woman, these are the things that you might do. But it doesn't mean that those duties and responsibilities cannot be interchangeable.
Right.
It just means that maybe because we're Africans and we understand that, okay, at some point, this is what a man should do and this is what a woman should do. But if it comes to the point where those things need to be, I mean, those lines don't need to be like black and white. We need like dotted lines so that we can cross over here and cross over here. And so if, like Wale said, you don't come back or sorry, like you don't come back at 6 p.m. and then wait until 11 p.m. for someone to come and give you fresh soup and serve it for you. What you do at that point is, you come, you understand, okay, yes, you're the man. You come back, grab yourself something. And I mean, nothing's stopping you from saying, okay, look, this woman has worked late all this, come back at 11 p.m. Let me reverse the roles and, get her
Make something for her too.
So, exactly. So, and when you do that for her, you get to the point where if sometimes she might even decide, oh, okay, I'm coming back, let me go and do, because it's a mutually beneficial partnership, that makes her want to do it for you out of her own volition, not because she's being forced or compelled to do it. So, and that's what I mean, that validation should not come from people forcing people to believe this is what you must do to become complete. It should come from saying, look, what I want to do is what makes me complete.
Wow. I guess that is a good note to bring it all home. Man, thank you guys so much. This has been really, really fun. I learned a lot personally. I know I will go back to this episode and just listen over and over again. But before I let you guys go, do you have one last gem, one last, word of knowledge to drop? Just one sentence.
Control the things you can control. The things you can't control, leave them.
Ooh, I like it. I'll take that. Wally.
Learning is continuous, and setbacks are setbacks. They are not. Failure sounds more final. So we should never, unless we have decided to stop trying things, we should never just make anything final. So we should always just be ready to say, okay, I stumbled here, I didn't get the desired outcome here. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to learn, and I'm going to move forward, and I'm going to keep charging. While I'm going to learn while I'm charging, so that my charging, the way I charge, is different from what I did the last time, kind of thing. But yeah. So
thank you, Leia.
Remember, failure will come. There's no doubt about that. Failure will come, but how you pick yourself up and how you go and move beyond that failure is what matters as well. Because in retrospect, when you look back, I'm like, oh yeah, I did fail at that particular thing or the issue once, but now I've moved beyond it. So failure will come, but always move beyond that. Always move past it.
Thank you guys so much. Gentlemen, this has been fun. You will be back again very soon, I promise you. Different topics for sure, but yeah, this has been fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it. Thank you, Collins.
thank you
Wally.
so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Been a pleasure. Nice to see you guys.
Nice to meet you
Nice
guys.
to you.
Thank you for watching, listening to that episode. I hope you learned a thing or two. Personally, I learned how to redefine failure.